Hello and welcome to Hindi Reading Class 9C. Today we're going to talk about something very interesting that I think the majority of learners of Hindi don't know about. So, let's see. So the question comes about in words like this is that why are there two of the same thing? We see two connected with a ma here. What does that mean exactly? Why would we have two of the same thing? This makes little sense. Now, in English, when we have two of the same letters, guess what? We ignore one of the letters. Awesome. Unfortunately, like you should know about most things in Hindi, things are not ignored. You don't have silent letters in Hindi only on very exceptional cases. No. It's not because two are better than one. Okay? So two is definitely more than one, right? It's not the same as one. Two is more than one. And that is twice as much to be exact. Thank you, John. So a conjunct that is made up of two of the same consonants, this is a general rule, takes approximately twice as long to say. Twice as long to say. Interesting. So the big word for this is called gemination. Why? Because Gemini is a twin. We have two of the same thing, and that makes it twice as long. So here we have famous Homer Simpson word. Two sounds put together makes what? Mm, twice as long. 1, 2. 1, 2. Not but 1, 2. See? So how would we pronounce this? This would be himmat. Nothing unusual here. Himmat. Okay, now how would we pronounce this? Remember, two is twice as much as one. So how do we pronounce this? Himmat. Him 1, 2 at. Himmat. So this was himmat, and then this was himmat. That extra elongation is a big difference for a mother tongue speaker of Hindi because there are entire words that base themselves on that. So, many words, as a matter of fact. So, a double sound is what? It's not just s, it's s, 1, 2, s, 1, 2. So, how would we pronounce this? This is hissa, hissa. But then if we have this, two is exactly twice as much as one. What do we get now? We get hissa, 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 right? So that twice as long is actually, it's going to depend on how fast you're speaking. So however long your other is, depending on how fast you're speaking, then it's going to be twice that length. So this is not like a seconds thing. It's twice as length. You just hold it. So here we go. We have the Spanish R. So if you put two of those together, two Ras together, what do you get exactly? You get R. You get the tongue roll. Yes, two R's together is the Spanish tongue roll. So we have this word here. This is mara. But then if we put the little rodent on a branch above it, then what do we get? We get marra. See the difference? Mara, marra, mara, marra. Interesting, isn't it? So now we have two z's together. So what did you get? Z, 1, 2. Z, 1, 2. Z, 1, 2. Twice as long as a regular z. So how would we pronounce this? This is izzat, right? Izzat. But then how would we pronounce this? Just as you thought, twice as long. Izzat. Izzat. Twice as long. It's very interesting, isn't it? Hindi is, in many ways, because of this, or you should say, this is an indication that Hindi is almost like a timed-based spoken language. Stuff is not drawn out or elongated. Usually, it's spoken on a consistent pattern of beats, just like how you play musical notes. And that's why, for an English speaker, Hindi often sounds fast, like you're saying your syllables too fast. You are not dragging out anything. So this is why. Time, izzat, 1, 2. Two nas together. If one na is na, then two is na, na, twice as long. 1, 2. So this is minat, minat. Of course, the sound here is the one that touches the teeth. So keep that in mind. No air. And so if we had minnat, minnat, now what do we have if we have a double? Minnat, 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 minnat. Interesting exercise. Izzat, 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 izzat. Different, isn't there? Mara, marra, mara, marra. Hissa, 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 hissa. Himmat, 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 himmat. Hear the pause? It's a very important but often overlooked part of Hindi. It will make you that much better. So this is unis. What is this? This is what we actually should say. This is unis, 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 1, 2, unis, 1, 2, unis, 1, 2. Aha. It's getting even more interesting because we're seeing words that we thought we knew exactly, but now we're noticing that there is a slight difference here. This is ayub, ayub. So if we have double, twice as long, what do you have? Ayub, 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 ayub. Very interesting. You might even want to take a look at the book of Genesis when we're done with this. How do you pronounce this? Ulu, ulu. But then this is ullu. Ah, now we have the word for owl. Ulu, ullu, ulu, ullu. See, two L's is 1, 2, 1, 2. Ulu, ullu. Twice as long. Billy, Billy, Billy. But this is the actual word for cat. Billy, Billy, not Billy. Billy is a boy I knew in Texas. No, Billy, and then this is Billy cat. Billy, Billy, twice as long. Bill 1, 2, E. Bill 1, 2, E. So now the musicians feel happy. Billy, Billy. Aha, gussa. Interesting. But here's the actual word for anger. Twice as long. Gussa. 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 And that is the actual pronunciation. Gussa, 1, 2. Gus, 1, 2, ah. Gus, 1, 2, ah. Gussa. 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 Let's see. And here is an interesting word. Lassi. Yes, it's what we all love. Well, not all love to drink, but lassi. For the lactose non-intolerant, we like lassi, usually with mango. Some people might like salted, acquired taste for many. Lassi, 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 lassi. Hissa. But what is the actual word for part? Hissa, 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 hiss, 1, 2, ah, hissa. It's a wonderful lesson. Okay, so now you will get to the some of these words have consonants that don't seem like they can be doubled. For instance, the ch sound. Now, how do you double ch? Yeah, it would be a tongue twister at best. Not that we don't have tongue twisters in Hindi, but fortunately, this is not one of them. So what do? No, we can't say for that long. And so pause. Pausing is the key. So here, like music, you know, in music, when you have that little pause, you have it in the song sometimes and it throws everybody off. But this is what this is here. But cha. See, but pause ah. Now we're gonna see ba is what the first syllable is. Ba. That's fine. We got that. Now, your tongue is going to be in place to say this letter, in the same place. So for cha, the top part of your tongue is going to be touching the roof of your mouth. So put your tongue in place, even though we're not going to say it. Put your tongue in place, and it's going to sound to the listener like you want to say it. We're going to wait. 1 count. Pause. So here's where we have that 1 pause. So where do we start? We started with ba. We put our tongue in place to say cha. We paused instead of saying it, and then we said it. Da. So put it all together. Here we have the non-geminated, duplicate, twinned, 1. So this is bacha. Bacha. This means saved. And as we will see later, gemination affects meaning, which is a good thing to pay attention to. Anything in Hindi that affects meaning, it's good to learn. So this is bacha, and then double it. Remember what we said? Pause, put your tongue in the place, pause, and then say it. So here we have bacha, which means child. So here we have bacha, which means save. And here we have bacha. You heard the pause? Bacha. Bacha, 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 bacha. And so now your mind is blasted because we have gone into a level of a part of Hindi that does not exist in English. It does, however, exist in other languages other than Hindi. And it was in I believe Greek, in Old Greek. So this is something that our brothers in the 1st century would have been well aware of. So, kata, and then we have the word for immature, unripe. Kacha, kacha, kacha. Ka, pause, cha. But remember, your tongue should be where it should be to say cha. So, kacha, 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 kacha. Sacha. But is that what we know? We say this. Sacha. It's true. Sacha, 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 sacha. Here we have gadi, 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 and here we have gaddi. Once again, it's the pause. We have two does. That is a strange symbol, isn't it? I think we kind of go over the exceptional cases of the later, but this is a good start to know. This is a the. This is two does. Gaddi, 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 gaddi. And of course, this is the da with your tongue touches your teeth. Gaddi, 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 gaddi. How do we say this? Laga, right? Laga, laga. But how do we say this? This is two gas. Notice that the line on the first one is gone. Why? Because it ends in a line, and so we chopped it in half with a saw. Lagga. You heard the pause? Laga, lagga, laga, lagga, laga, lagga. Pause. Because we can't extend G. No. Laga, lagga, laga, lagga. Interesting one, which many people don't like to say, but this is kota. But this is the word for dog, and this is kutta. We see the two T's, two ta sounds, which is not an English T, but the one where your tongue touches the bottom of your top front teeth. Kutta, 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 kutta. It's very interesting and very common in Hindi, this double letter stuff. Kutta, kutta. So this is tajub. See that? Ta, ju, b. Tajub. But then we have this. We throw in a double, and what suddenly it becomes tajub. Right? Tajub, 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 tajub. Pause. You have the pause. You have the pause. Tajub, 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 tajub. Makes everything in Hindi funner. Tajub, 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 tajub. So this is zimedar, zimedar. Interestingly, though, it's spelled this way. Zimmedar. You hear the pause? Zimmedar. It's not a pause. No, this is an extension. We talked about this. Zimmedar, zimmedar. Whether pause, extension, it's really the same. Twice as long. Zimmedar, zimmedar. Okay. So this is paka. Yes, it has been cooked actually. It's ripened. But here now we have, are you sure? You know, are you cooked or are you sure? So here we have paka, pakka, paka, pakka, paka, pakka. It is fixed, it is firm, it is solid, like a rock. Paka, pakka, paka, pakka. Here, one, paka. Sounds interesting. Pakka. Hear the pause? Paka, pakka. And once again, twice as long. We don't need to ka. This is not like a a Hollywood movie with slow motion. So it's just long enough to say it twice as long. Pakka, 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 pakka. Taraki, taraki, But here is what we actually see, which is tarakki, 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 tarakki. Interesting. Gadar. And remember how double da looks? Like this. So this is paused, gadar, and this is gaddar, traitor. Gadar, gaddar, gadar, gaddar, gadar, gaddar, gadar, gaddar. Ha, this is uttar, right? Uttar, you probably have seen this. Come down. And yet this is north. Uttar, pause. Uttar, come down. Uttar, it's doubled. There's a pause. Uttar, 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 uttar. Hmm. Mm, Muhabbat, 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 you know, muhabbat. But this is how we see it spelled. So it is muhabbat, pause. Because we can't say brrr. No, that wouldn't be right. So muhabbat, and here we say muhabbat, muhabbat, muhabbat. Hear the pause. Muhabbat, 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 muhabbat. Tabis sounds like something you may say. Here's what is actually written. Chabis. Haha. Chabis, 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 chabis. Wonderful, isn't it? Chabis, 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 chabis. Chutti, 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 chutti. Then here we get to this, which inserts a pause, and now we have chutti, chutti. We'll talk about this form a little bit later. This is rad. But then how would we pronounce this? Well, the pause would actually be there. So this is rad, and then we have rad, 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 rad. Okay. Uh, if you can figure this one out, you get 100 invisible dollars. So these are similar but not the same. If you've noticed, one is non-aspirated. The first one, it is half of a th, and then the second one is the aspirated one, which is ta. Right? This is the teeth, tongue touch teeth. Ta, no air, followed by ta, with air. So how do we pronounce this? Well, pausing is still the key. We're gonna pause. It's basically the same. So this is also a geminated letter in Hindi. When you have the same place, the same sound, one with air and one without air, back to back, combined in a conjunct, this is treated like a geminated or twinned letter. So we are going to add a pause. It is exactly twice as long. Still, right? Just because one is aspirated and non-aspirated, it doesn't matter. So when you make this sound, it's twice as long, but it's going to be an aspirated sound. Why? Because we're pausing on the non-aspirated sound. So here, look at this. We're going to say pa, we're going to pause on the ta, which essentially gets rid of it. We get rid of our non-ear brother, and then we pronounce the ear brother, which is ta. So pa, pause, ta. Pa, pause, ta. Got that? Okay. So how do we pronounce this? This would be pathar. Pathar. But here is the word for rock. And you notice there is a pause. Why? Because we have two combined letters. And the only difference between them is one has ear and one doesn't. So what is that? That means it is twice as long, and we're going to pronounce the ear. Now, in these cases where you see both of them combined, you'll notice that it will always be the non-ear combined with the ear, the non-aspirated combined with the aspirated. You're never going to see two aspirated together. That's just a convention, a writing convention in Hindi. So how do we pronounce this? So we said that this one was pathar, but now this one is patthar. Simple word like rock, has a pause. Pathar, patthar, pathar, patthar, pathar, patthar, pathar, patthar. Interesting. So, like we said before, you're not gonna see this happen. So this is two thas, right? This is not legal in written Hindi. So I don't know about other languages, but in written Hindi, this is illegal. We're always gonna see the one with no aspiration first, and then the one with aspiration second. Thank you, teacher. So how do you pronounce this? This is icha, 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 icha. However, this is what is the actual word for desire or wish. This is icha. So you saw what we did? I, pause, cha with ear. Icha. Remember to add the ear. We don't want to be bad and not add the ear. So icha, icha, icha. You hear the pause? So this is icha, icha, and this is icha, 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 icha. This is acha. But here's how we write it in Hindi. And so technically, what is it? Acha, 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 acha. Hear the pause? Acha, a pause, ta, acha, 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 acha. So now we're gonna go back and talk about some of these special forms for these four letters only. So ta, ta, da, da. If you notice, they're hanging from a top line. All of it looks like someone took something and hung it from a limb on a tree, hung it from the clothesline, if you know what those still are in the 22nd century. I mean, 22nd, 21st. I've lost track of centuries, so man. Okay, so here we have two does together, and that would be the same. We're talking about in a word, you're going to have a pause followed by da. So two together, you would be top to bottom. This is what you're going to see. Most of the time, they're going to join them top to bottom, like this. Because they're hanging from each other already. Let's just make them hang from themselves, I guess is the logic. And so here, once again, we have a non-ear, da, non-aspirated, da, combined with the one with ear, ta. Like we said in Hindi, we're not going to see two tas together. We're just going to see the one. And so this is what you're going to see, hanging from one another again. So the ones with the lines can hang. This one you will occasionally also see hung together. If the font supports it, just like this, hang one on top of the other, da mixed with da. So da, 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 da. So, and once again, you're also going to see da mixed with da, but you will never see da combined with da. That's illegal. So this is da mixed with da. So keep track of that. When you see it, easy to figure out, but just for completeness purposes, we go over it. So how would we say this? This would be ikata. And how would we say this? This would be ikata. What did you hear there? What's the difference between ikata, 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 and ikata? What was the difference? Ikata, ikata. There was a pause. So we paused on the non-aspirated, and then we said the aspirated ta. So ikata, 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 ikata. How do you pronounce this? This would be chi followed by t, titty, titty, titty. But then how would we say this? This is a double. This is a geminated da combined with a ta. So this would be chi pause t, chitty. So this is chitty, and this is chitty, 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 chitty. Okay, so how do you pronounce this? This would be butti. Remember, this is the D aspirated, the one with air D where your tongue touches your teeth. This is not English, English D sound at all. So, bu, short bu, butti, right? Now here's what we actually see written where if you notice, you have to memorize the sign. We're going to briefly discuss this later, but these have to be memorized. This is a non-aspirated the touching the teeth combined with the aspirated the touching the teeth. If you notice here, you'll see the little curve is the shoved under the sound. So this is a conjunct. We've combined the with the. And so what do we get? This is the actual word for wisdom in Hindi. So we may have been saying it buddhi, but how is it actually pronounced? Buddhi. What happened? We added a pause. Pause. See, Indians really enjoy pausing. You know, when it's 120 degrees outside, you pause and you sit under the nearest tree. You take a break. Okay, that was a really bad joke. Anyway, so buddhi, 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 buddhi. Hopefully you're beginning to hear this. Should, you should be beginning to hear this. So buddhi, 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 buddhi. It adds an actual to maybe to English speakers' ears. It sounds like a little bit more emphasized. We're not used to pausing in the middle of words, so it creates a little bit more of an emphasis for us in our ears. So this is buddhi and this is buddhi. So how do we pronounce this? This is shud, which is probably how we have been pronouncing the word for clean. And this is what is actually written. This is, once again, like we said, a the, tongue touching teeth, combined with aspirated the, tongue touching teeth. And so this is should, and then this is sh, pause, the. So should, 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 should. It's very subtle, especially at the end of words. Should, 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 should. So now we get to, this is udhar, okay? This is udhar, udhar. This is the with air, tongue touching teeth. Udhar, udhar, dhar. And so we have a combination again. So this is udhar. So this is udhar, and this is udhar. Now we're going to take a look, because this makes a big difference in the meaning actually. We have udhar here, and then we have udhar. And we're going to look at how this makes a meaning. Actually, this was taken from a serial I happened to be watching one day. And we're going to take a look and see this play on words. Indians have puns on words too. They realize that these words are similar, but not the same. And so they can play on that pun. So in the following video, one man has become a follower of the miraculous Sando Guru, who promises his followers miraculous blessings if they give him money. How does he bless them? He hits them on the head with a dirty sandal. It's a comedy. And so the second brother is skeptical. Is this sandal guru a miracle worker or a con man? And so we're going to see this play out in this video. I'm going to play this video here, but I'm going to have to play the audio in the background because this thing is so smart that if I play it on here, it's gonna pretend like it's background noise, and you're not gonna hear it. So I'm gonna play it in the background. It might not be perfectly synced. Might not be perfectly synced. So we're gonna take a look at this dialogue that they said, and then we're gonna listen to it again, and maybe a third time, and you see if you hear a difference. So the first man says, "Udhar hi udhar hoga, chappal wale baba ki jai." So there will only be what? Salvation. So udhar with the pause is salvation. Udhar hi udhar hoga, chappal wala, right? Udhar hi udhar. So then the second man says, उद्धार या होगा या उद्धार होगा ये तो समय ही बताएगा. So will it be salvation or will it be debt? Now if you realize that the concepts between salvation and debt is actually the opposite. Debt means you owe someone something, you're in bondage, whereas salvation means you are being set free. Now that is interesting because just the lack of the pause or the addition of the pause has changed the meaning completely. And so they can play on this meaning on words just by adding a pause. If we didn't know that, this dialogue would be quite confusing. So we're going to listen to it one more time. No, we're not going to go there. All right, so did you hear? Udhar hoga ya udhar hoga. So we're going to listen to it one more time, and I'm going to stick the video link here. So when you're watching this, you will see a video link right here over in the top corner, and there is where I'm going to stick the link so you can watch it again and again and again. Okay, so now we're going to move on, and we said before, and we've been mentioning that gemination changes the meaning of words. So bacha means save, bacha means child, udhar means loan, udhar means salvation, uttar means to descend, uttar means north. Dili is very sincere, close, heartfelt, whereas Dilli is the city of New Delhi. Laga means it seemed or was attached, and lagda is a pole. Paka means to be cooked or became cooked or ripe, and pakka is something solid, sure, and firm. Kuda is having been estimated. However, do not say it has been estimated and call someone a kutta, which would mean you are a dog. You definitely don't want to do that. All of that has to do with what? Pauses, gemination, extension. So we have asar, which means effect, whereas asar is lining a petticoat. So saja is adorned, whereas sajja is a decoration. Saman, this is equal. However, saman is respect. That's a big difference there. Saman is similar, equal. Saman, oh, now it's respect. Bata is divided, whereas batta is a rebate discount. Pata is an address or clue. Lekin patta is a leaf on a tree. So you say someone, did you see the leaf? And you say, pata dekha. Did you see the address or the clue? What? Patta, the pause has to be there. You have bala, which is maybe a word for calamity. And then we have balla, which means being. Sata is to torment someone, whereas satta is power. Then chuni is chosen, whereas chunni is scarf. And so we see that this double letter is woven into the very fabric of the Hindi language. And so it is very important. As a matter of fact, it's probably more importance should be given to this, especially on schools and such. It is a more advanced topic, but so now we're going to talk about a few exceptions. We have the double na, which we saw before. This can also be written like this. So if we see both forms, don't be surprised. Once again, you will see if it's a double na, you're going to see that loop. The loop never disappears from na. And so we have two different ways. We have minnat and minnat. It's the same, just written slightly different. Sannata and sannata. We have double ta. Now we can see the double ta, which is ta back to back there. However, something very careful to be very careful, something to be very careful about is here on the right, where that is actually a double ta. Now, what is the difference? Like, how do we know the difference between that and the regular ta? Take a look at it. And so you'll notice that it has a little line that's an extension on the front, and that tells you that it's a double ta. Now, I want you to look when you get a chance at the first book of the Bible, which is Utpatti, which can be said Utpatti, but this is Utpatti. And the difference in that little ta has a great meaning, great change in meaning to the first book. So here we have Kutta and Kutta. It is the same, written two different ways. Patta and patta. Ka can also be written up and down occasionally. So left to right or up and down, it is the same. And so here we have pakka and pakka. Take a note of that. These are things that you should take a note of. Cha can also be written up and down occasionally. So you will have katta and katta. They are the same, just written slightly different. That is the end of today. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and hopefully this has made your Hindi so much better, so much more understandable. And it is a good reminder for me, actually, because I had forgotten how much of a difference that this can make.